So I'll just give a brief introduction of Brendan. So Brendan is a highly experienced and pioneering mediator, consultant, advisor, and trainer working mainly in Ireland and the UK, and one of the few who practices workplace mediation and writes on workplace mediation. So we are super excited, and we are very thankful to Brendan for being our expert friend and expert trainer. He's a super supportive expert friend of ICM. So welcome, Brendan. Very good to have you with us today. So,
thank you very much, Aditya. Thank you. And
so
good. I'd say good morning, everyone, but I think it's your afternoon there. Okay. So hello, everyone. I know doing this on a Saturday probably isn't brilliant, right? So we'll try to help you to get as much from the session as you possibly can. And you never know, you might even enjoy it as well. I'll have a bit of fun. Okay. Yeah, so look, I suppose the first thing to say is that I hope you can understand my Irish accent, and you know, if you don't understand me, please ask me to repeat or to say it again. And I know sometimes the Wi-Fi isn't great, and that can be a difficulty. So if you're not hearing me properly for some reason, please just, you know, put up the hand and ask me to repeat. Okay. Maybe the second thing to say is, so what I do is workplace mediation mainly, but there are, as you know, lots of other places where mediation happens. You know, you have family mediation, you have community mediation, commercial mediation, and so on. And they can be slightly different how it's done. And indeed, each mediator can have a slightly different approach to different process that they use. So when we do the role play today, I'm hoping that it's of interest to you, and I hope it isn't too different to what you've been learning so far, okay? But if it is, you know, just take it that, you know, there's different ways that people do things in mediation. And there's also principles entry that is confidential and that the mediator doesn't, you know, tell the parties what to do and make them do something. Okay, but the style can be a bit different and the process can be a little bit different. So I'd say to you, maybe, you know, just run with that and see how you find it and see what you think. And I know we have time to debrief after the role play, and you know, just to have a few questions and answers around that. Okay, I think we're probably always a little bit unsure about role plays, whether it's the trainer or yourselves, you know, because they can go anyway. So, but that's the excitement, that's the fun of mediation, you know. And look, we'll see where it goes to, and I hope you find it interesting. I suppose the other thing maybe just to say is it's all about learning, it's all about getting insight, and everything you do on the training, whether it's a role play or a case study or a discussion, you're going to learn something more out of that. So always just happened. And I have to say, I'm amazed and delighted and fascinated by what Aditya and Kudrat and I guess others have done in YCM. It's fantastic that you know, this has been set up, and that there's so many of you that are interested in going and doing this and learning about it, and hopefully then trying to bring it into whatever you do in life, whether it's, I know a number of you are probably from a legal background. So if you're from the legal background, that you do pay a lot of attention to this mediation way of doing things. And if you end up in different organizations or doing other things, that you remember the mediation and that you bring it into those organizations and tell people about it and spread the word, because it's a great way to deal with conflict. We have so much conflict in the world, you know, without even thinking about wars, just in, you know, in families and in businesses and in you know, in our workplaces. There's so much conflict, and there's not enough things like mediation to try and you know, just deal with that. So mediation, it's a great way to deal with that. And I'd say to you, you're getting something really good by doing the training. And don't forget it, keep it with you. It's a nugget, it's a golden nugget. So take it with you. Okay. What did I say? Yeah. So I think we normally allow a bit of sort of question and answers at the beginning, then before we do the role play. So maybe if I just open it up to the group, if people want to ask any particular questions.
Yeah, we have a question from Pranav. Pranav, if you want to ask, can I ask?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
All right, perfect. I had a question regarding mediation in general. So, for example, if I'm mediating between two parties and one party uses certain derogatory thoughts, for example, misogynism, racism, or some sort of homophobia, how do we deal with that as a mediator? And like, what if the decisions, for example, are influenced by these sort of thoughts? For example, what if an employer skips over another person because of their ethnicity in a promotion, and we are mediating between those two individuals? So how exactly would we go about by this?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I hope I have a simple answer to it, but probably don't. Okay. But what I'd say to you is that when we hear things like a misogynist or a bully or a micromanager or terms like that, you know, they can be difficult for the mediation because they can upset the other person quite strongly. But there may be something in what the person is saying that we need to find out about, because of course there are two parties in the room, and you're trying to get a result for both parties. So what we try to do with that, at least in the workplace sector, and if anybody else wants to come in on this, I'm happy for them to do that. In the workplace sector, what we do is we look at those as labels. And when we hear a label, we try to get below the label to find out what is the behavior that they're talking. So if somebody said, you know, he's a misogynist, okay, we would say, well, can you tell us what is he doing that makes you believe that he's a misogynist? Okay? So you're getting away from just the top label, which is name calling, really, isn't it? They're just calling them names, you know, to get at what's the behavior underneath that we're dealing with here. And then, of course, once you start talking about the behavior, you can start to look at, well, what do you need to change there in order to get things into a better position? So I'd say that's maybe at a very sort of quick answer to quite a deep question, right? Just as a technique, I suppose, it's to try and get away from the labeling and get that off the table and get into the behavior. And now we can talk about the behavior. It's difficult to talk about the label, because of course the other person says, I'm not a misogynist, I'm not a bully. And then what happens then? You know, I'm not, you are, I'm not, you are. Whereas if you start talking about behavior now, you can look at that and try and get that changed. Thank you, Prav. That was an interesting question to start us.
Thank you so much, Brendan, for sharing that. Do we have another question? If yes, you can raise your hand, or else we'll move with the role play to give you a feel of workplace mediation. That too with one of the best workplace mediators present with us today. I believe we don't have any more questions as of now. So, Brendan, if it's fine with you, we can move with the role play.
That's great. Okay, and I just wanted to check in because we're doing the How's That role plays, not it, and we have somebody who's Lara is the software engineer, and the other party in that is that AJ. Is that who that is?
Oh,
Or
it is HR, the human
AJ. AJ. Okay, lovely. Okay, so maybe just to explain, to start off what I would do here. So in the model that I have, we meet each individual separately before the joint session, and then we bring them together in joint session, and we have 3 stages that we work through there. So that's what I'm going to take you through with the role play using that model. And I hope it isn't too different to what you've been doing up to now. So maybe if I start with whoever is doing Lara, is that okay?
Yes, I'm Lara.
You have Lara, and excellent. Yeah, great. Thank you very much.
I'm Lara, software designer at HouseAct. I've worked at HouseAct for 7 years and led the team into many successful projects. And Becky is my senior who is now retiring. And it is discussed among everyone that I'll be succeeding Becky. But I'm shocked that the company didn't appoint me and appointed some newcomer who doesn't even know what to do. And I feel extremely wronged by this decision of HouseAct. And I don't think I can work here where my efforts aren't really valued. I'm also offered another job where I'm better paid at WhatsApp. If I can't be promoted after all these years of work, I don't see a point in working here.
Thank you very much for that Lara. Maybe you could tell me a little bit more about how the 7 years have gone in the company.
I've led various teams into successful projects. Like I've designed many softwares for the company.
Okay. And was this your first job? Had you been somewhere else before?
No, this is my first job.
Okay, very good. And how did you get on with Becky?
I and Becky went along very well. She even has a great regard for my performance. So
very good. So you worked well together.
Yes.
Very good. And when Becky left, how did the company replace her?
The company replaced her with with a guy named Anil, I guess, if I'm not wrong, and he's appointed from outside. He wasn't working here before.
Okay. And was there an interview process, or was he just brought in?
I guess there was an interview process, but all my co-workers feel that he's not qualified for the job, like he's not up to the task, and he's very less experienced than me.
Have you met him already?
No, I haven't.
Okay. And could I ask, Laura, did you go to the interviews as well?
No.
Okay.
You mean for my qualification or for his, like Anil's?
Well, the job for Becky's replacement, if there were interviews for that, were you interviewed also?
No, I wasn't interviewed.
Okay. And did you apply? Like, was there an advert and you were expected to apply for that?
No, I wasn't expected to, because it was already among discussions among everyone that I will be the one to succeed Becky. So.
And who made the decision?
The HR team.
Okay. All right. And I know you mentioned that you were shocked when you heard the outcome. Maybe could you tell us a bit about how the decision has affected you?
Well, I have actually, sorry, one sec. Actually, I was thinking I'll be promoted, and I've planned many financial things, and now I won't be able to fulfill them because of this decision.
Gotcha. So there would have been quite an increase in salary, and you were thinking about how you might spend the money, and that's not possible now.
Yes.
So that's disappointing then as well, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Anything else about how this has affected you?
Actually, that's all. I have a lot of bills that have increased to meet with, and this decision has affected. So,
Are you annoyed about what's happened?
sorry?
Are you angry about what has happened?
Yes, I am angry.
Okay. And you know, are you angry at the company? Are you angry at Becky's replacement? Are you angry at HR? Where is the anger focused?
I don't know. Just that I've not been recognized for my efforts. I guess that's all.
Okay.
Not
So
towards
it's
the
back to
company.
you don't feel that your contribution has been valued because of that,
Yes.
and you're annoyed, you're angry about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But yet you've come into the mediation. I know you said you had the possibility of another job in a different company, and I'm
Yes.
just wondering, like, do you feel is it time to move on, or do you feel you'd like to continue in this company if you possibly could?
Yes. If we could work out on the terms, I think I would like to continue to work here, because I've all my friends here, and I've also worked for 7 years and built my reputation. And if the company decides to promote me, or at least even increase my pay, then I would love to work here, continue working here. So.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's been a good 7 years. You like the company, the friends are here, and of course you built your reputation here because this is your first job, and the good work that you're doing here, people know about that in here, even though
Yes.
this particular decision didn't go your way. Yeah. Okay. And in doing the mediation, like what do you need?
I expect to be promoted to that role. In case if that's not possible, then I'd at least like a hike in my salary, because that's even if I go to another company who the competitor who's offering me a job, they would pay me better, like 20K better than here. So if there was a hike here, so I wouldn't be considering to go there.
Gotcha. Very good. And the mediation is with AJ, the new person who's taken over from Becky, as I understand it. Would AJ have the authority to give an increase, or do you know?
Sorry, who I
Would
Apologies, Brendan. The other party is HR, the human resource manager of the
HR?
company.
I said, sorry, HR. Yeah, that's grand. Sorry, apologies. Sorry, Lara. That's grand. Okay, so we're meeting HR, and your sense is that, look, I'd like to stay in the company if I could. I'm upset by what's happened. I'm disappointed by what's happened. But if they can do something in relation to maybe a promotion or a salary increase or something like that, then your preference would be to stay in the company rather than leaving and starting afresh in a different company. Okay.
yes.
Okay. Is there anything else that you wanted to tell me about that you think might be important?
No, that's all.
Super. Okay. So maybe just to explain a bit about the process when we get together in the joint session. there's 3 steps to that. Firstly, we do a bit of discussion about understanding what the issues are. And once we've done that, we move on to thinking about what are the options? How could we come up with some good options to deal with the problem? And then the final piece is reaching agreement. So whatever we agree, we can put down on paper and say, okay, that's what has been agreed. And then you both sign that, and that becomes the outcome for the mediation. Okay.
Okay, cool.
So just that first bit, when we meet, what I normally get you both to do is to, you have a bit of uninterrupted speaking time. So you can tell each other what are the things that are on your mind. And I'd like you to maybe do a bit of preparation on that. Maybe write down a couple of bullet points so that in the joint session, when I ask you, Laura, would you like to read out what you've prepared, that you can do that, and HR will listen and I will listen. We won't interrupt. When you're finished, I'll probably ask you a couple of questions, and then I'll do the same with HR as well. Okay. So what I do is, while I'm meeting with HR, I'm doing a similar meeting to this with HR. If you could work on that and maybe think about what are the important points that you'd like to get across to HR, and just write them down so that you're prepared then for the meeting when we go in. Is that okay?
Sure. I should just write down what I'm expecting from her, right?
Yeah, it's actually whatever you want to say. So if you do want to, explain how disappointed you were, please do. I'm not telling you to do that, about to them, and then just write it down. Before I meet with both of you jointly, I just check in with you again, and we can have a look at that and just see that you're happy with it. Is that okay? That's super. Okay, well, unless you've any other questions then at this stage, I'm happy with that. Let you work on that, and I'll see you again shortly.
Sure, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Laura. Okay. Okay, so that's Laura, and then we have somebody from HR.
I'm the head of the HR, yes.
Ah, great. Super. Will I just call you HR? Is that okay?
Perfectly fine, yes.
For the role, yeah. Okay. Great. So hello, HR. Okay. Thank you for meeting me in the mediation, and this is just a preparatory session before we go into the joint. And it's for me just to get an understanding of what's been happening. Of course, if you want to ask me any questions about the mediation, happy to answer those as well. And maybe just to think about the joint session and how that would go. So could you maybe tell me a bit about, from the HR, from the company point of view, how you see things?
Sure. I had a question before I start.
Please go ahead.
A mediation related question. Is this supposed to be sort of what we call the caucus? Is this the private session? Or should I reveal any confidential information right now, or would that be coming later?
So this is a private preparatory meeting, and whatever is discussed here can't be told to the other side. Okay, so whatever we talk about here, unless you want to bring it into the joint session, I can't bring it in. So I cannot say in the joint session, what you told me in the preparatory session, and say it out. Okay, but we can talk about it and we can discuss that. So it's private. The term caucus, they usually mean when you're in a joint session, you leave the joint session, have a caucus, and go back in. So this is the very first step. It's a preparatory step. And again, that might be a bit different to what you've been learning, but certainly in workplace, we would do this. We would always start with each individual first. And there might be things that we need to think about or do before we get the parties into the joint set. So there might be a bit more work needed prior to that, and we discover that in that individual session.
Understood. Thank you.
Rather than going straight into the joint. Yeah.
Yes. Should I go ahead?
Yeah, please do. Please do.
So I'm Simran. I'm the HR head, and Lara, our long-time employee, reached out to us. She had been working with Becky, her senior colleague, for the last 7 years, and she was held in high regard by not just her senior, but everyone in the office. And she has reached out to us regarding this issue about not being able to get Becky's job, which was amongst talks between everyone in the office. Now, HR is in a difficult position as Ajay, the person who has been given the job, the promotion, he is the relative of the CFO of Howsat. And here, he's here on recommendation, and this can and because of these reasons, he cannot be replaced by Lara. We have appointed Ajay as part of the HR team, but we have no authority to remove him or give any suggestions as to that. So that puts HR in a difficult position. However, Lara is our long-time valuable employee. She has led many team projects to successful conclusions, and it would be a great loss to us if she were to join our competitive firm, that is WhatsApp. So this is where we stand, and we are willing to promote Lara, not to the same position, but we are willing to create a new position for her, similar to that of the position that she was expecting. And we are also willing to provide her an increase in her salary for the same reasons.
Good. Thanks for going through that. It's interesting that you say she's she's been held in very high regard, and she's been there a long time, and you would like to keep her in the company, and certainly you would not like to see her going to a competitor. Certainly somebody of that skill and knowledge would be quite a loss. But your hands are tied a bit, because the person who got the job is the nephew, the CFO, and of course that's a difficulty. You can't just replace that person. So you're kind of caught in a difficult position there with Lara, and I guess you're saying you're aware that people are talking about it in the office, and there's a bit of pressure there as well from what other people are saying, and you really don't want to lose her. Is there any other impact that has happened as a result of this situation?
There is a sort of you might say a social disarray. People are concerned that if it comes to them, like when it comes to their chance, the same thing might happen. But in this scenario, we have no choice, because Ajay happens to be the relative of the CFO, and he's here on recommendation. This won't be the case in every single scenario, but it is appearing to be that way, and it is affecting work environment.
Yeah, so it's something that you really would like to get sorted and to get resolved. Okay, and in terms of going into and doing it, I know you say you might be able to do something around a promotion or a salary increase or something like that. Is there anything that you need from the mediation?
We don't want to lose our long-term valuable employee, Lara, and we would be, if she would be willing to, if she would be comfortable with a similar position and not the same position, that's something that we would like to get help with, if she would be convinced to get a similar position.
Yeah. And in creating a new position, would she still report into Ajay, the new person?
No, she would be having a similar position. It would not be the same title. That would be the only difference.
Okay. And do you have any idea of her career ambitions? Do you know what she would like to do?
I have not been made aware of that, although she did reach out to us. We were suggested mediation, so that's something we would like to get to know a bit more and discuss.
Okay. Okay. Great. Great. Super. Great. So yeah, I think I've got a fairly good idea there in terms of where we're going, and in terms of the the difficulty for HR in trying to deal with this difficult situation. But there are possibilities there in terms of discussing career, maybe new job, and perhaps new salary and so on. And we can do that in the mediation. We can discuss that. Okay. So just to explain to you about the joint session when we meet, we've 3 stages in that. The first is a bit of discussion to understand what the issues are, maybe talk about them a little bit. So perhaps that could be a place where you could find out a bit more about what career ambitions or the type of projects that Laura might be interested in doing. And when we've finished understanding things there, we can move on to say, well, what are the options? What are the possibilities? And perhaps then we can bring in the things that you were saying about promotion, salary, and so on. And we can look at those and maybe see what Laura has in mind herself also, and see if we can get some good outcome coming out of that. And then the final bit is the agreement, and then we just write down whatever has been agreed, make it sort of formal if you like, and then you sign off on that, and then that's the outcome. That's the end of the mediation. Okay. Do you have any questions at all for me?
I had just one question. Should we be discussing what salary increase Lara would be comfortable with in the joint session, or should I let you know right now what increase we would be comfortable with?
We can certainly discuss that in the joint session. And there's no difficulty talking about money in mediation, okay? Maybe just, I suppose, my one point is that you must have the authority to be able to talk about it. So if you do agree something with Laura in the mediation, then it has to be that you have the authority to agree that, rather than having to go to somebody else to get their authority. So if you don't have the authority, we can still talk about it, but to make it clear that you would have to get final permission from somebody else. Okay. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Well, I'm happy with that if you're okay with that. And what I'd ask you to do maybe is just a little bit of preparation for the joint session, because at the very beginning, I'll give each of you a chance, just without interruption, to say what you would like to say at the beginning. And it's what you want to say. You mightn't want to say an awful lot. You mightn't want to talk about salary at that stage. You might just want to say a couple of things at the very beginning. So maybe for you to think about that, what you would like to say at the beginning, and maybe if you could write down some of those points, and I'll touch base with you then just before we go into the joint session to see how you've got on with that. Okay. Any concerns about going into joint? Happy enough? Okay.
Yes.
All right, that's super. Well, I leave you to do that little piece of work. I'm going to meet Laura again very briefly, and then we'll go into the joint session at that stage. So thank you very much, and I'll see you shortly. Right. Okay, so I might just go back to Laura then briefly, and just check in with you, Laura, if I can do that.
Yes.
How did you get on?
I got on well.
Okay.
So,
Would you like to maybe just read out what you prepared there, just for the two of us now, before we go into the joint session, and just see what it sounds like?
Okay, I've actually written what has to be said to HR.
Yeah.
Should I read that out?
So this is just you and I, and it's just a dry run. We're just checking how it sounds. Okay, so we're not in the joint session yet.
Okay.
I'm just checking to see how does it sound. Just read it out. Does that sound okay? Is it a bit?
Okay, so I wrote, I feel extremely wronged by this decision, and Ajay had very minimal experience and wasn't considered up to the mark. And he was appointed for the role, even though I was considered for the role until the end. And I've contributed and led many projects over the 7 years here, and it's only right that I take on to Becky's responsibilities. And I feel I'm more confident. I'm more qualified for this role than Ajay, so I wish to be promoted to this role.
Okay. How did that sound when you read it out?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything you're missing? Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Sorry.
Is there anything that you would like to add to that?
I think that's all according to the information I've been provided. So.
Okay. Okay. I mean, maybe the thing I would ask you to think about is, because you said a bit to me about how you've enjoyed working in the company and how you've done a good job on that. And I wonder, would it be useful to add that bit in as well, just to say about that?
Yeah, yes, that I could add that.
It's up to you, okay? But I'm just sort of thinking about it. I'm wondering, would that be something to add in so that HR knows that you actually, that you enjoy being in the company and being part of it. But
now I understand that it completely sounds like a complaint. If I add that, it will also reassure them that I love working here.
That's it exactly. Yeah. But again, if you don't want to put that in and you prefer to just read what you read, that's fine. It's entirely up to you what you say. But maybe just to think about that, if that would be something to add into your statement. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'll do that right now.
Okay. Any concerns, anything we need to talk about before you go into the joint session?
I feel like I haven't given the numbers before, like the salary increment and everything. In case if I'm offered a new job, right? So I was offered 20K increase of the salary that I already have. And if I'm given the promotion, I think I'll get about 25K hike. So if I'm promoted, it would be redundant for me to take on the job. And that's what I wanted to add, just the numbers. That's all.
Okay. And do you have a good idea about the numbers? Can you explain that kind of clearly to HR?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess probably where we'll do the most talking about that will be in the option development. So the second piece of the joint session, where we say, what are the things that would resolve this for us? And I guess we can get into the detail of the numbers at that point as well. Okay. And maybe I'd say to you, maybe to be open to see what HR has to say. You may not get everything you would like to get, but is there something that's acceptable for you that allows you to stay in the company and stay with the friends and the place that you know well? So maybe just to have an openness to what they have to say as well.
Yes, sorry, I think if I'm not offered the promotion, then I would like a salary hike. So
yeah,
of the same amount for the promotions.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple of possibilities there that can be considered, but you're hopeful that they might do something for you because of disappointment in not getting the job. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm going to leave you for a minute or two, and I'm going to go back and talk to HR briefly, and then we'll get together in the joint session. Okay. So see you shortly. Okay. Thanks, Emil. So I'm going back now to Simran. Isn't it Simran? Yep. Hi. Just wondering if you managed to, write out the bullet points that you wanted to say at the beginning, and maybe we could just hear what you have to say. Maybe just read it out to me.
So I was thinking that since we are here at Mediation, this means that we both have a mutual desire to want to continue this long-standing association that we have. So if Lara speaks about that during the joint session, I was thinking of proposing that we could talk about the possibility of a similar job option and an increase in salary as well, if she would be comfortable with that. So this is what I could come up with.
Okay. Anything else you think would be useful to say at the beginning?
I believe reassuring her that she is indeed a valuable employee. And I'm not exactly sure if it would be appropriate to let her know that this decision is not in the hands of the HR. But we do value her. That is what we want her to know. And we're willing to offer her a similar job position for those reasons and an increase in salary. So, yes.
Super. Yeah, because I think you're right. I think that knowing that the company actually do value her would be a very useful thing for her to hear, Great. Okay. So any other concerns or questions before we go into the joint session?
I don't think I have any. It's just that this increase in salary portion, is that something that I should be bringing up myself, or if you would have any inputs on that?
Yeah, well, we would normally get into that maybe in the option development, which is the kind of the second piece that we do, because we're looking for solutions at that stage. So
Right.
Salary, the amount of the salary increase, what are the expectations? What are the expectations around the kind of job? And you mightn't be able to meet those expectations, but that's more the point at the time in the session where we would talk about the detail of that. And it gets to be open to seeing what could be done and what might come out of it, and what essentially might keep Lara in the company, because I think that's a real goal that you have going into the mediation. Super. Okay. Are you happy with that? I'm okay. I'm ready to go into the joint if you are.
Happy with that.
That's super. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we'll now get into the joint session. Okay. And I welcome you both in. So Lara, thanks for the work earlier, and Simran, HR, thank you for the work earlier as well. And it's great that you both decided to come to mediation to try and get this issue resolved. I know you've signed the ground rules about ensuring that this is confidential, and of course, it's voluntary. You don't have to be here, and you don't have to agree on anything. Nobody's forcing you at the end of the day to agree something. I don't have any authority to make you agree to anything. So my role is to really facilitate and to help you have the discussion about dealing with the issues that you have. And the idea is to, I suppose, have a good, careful, respectful conversation about the issues and see if we can come to an agreement arising out of that. And as you know, the first bit is we're looking at, can we understand, well, what are the issues that we're dealing with? Then the second bit is saying, well, what are the ideas that we have for getting a resolution? And then we'll finalize that in an agreement and write that up for you to sign. Okay. So, so as you know, you have each a bit of uninterrupted speaking time at the beginning to read out your points and let the other know what's on your mind. Okay. So I'm not sure who would like to go first, or does it make sense for anyone to go first?
I would like to go first, if that's okay.
Simram, is that okay with you?
Yes, that's okay with me.
That's super. Thanks. Okay, Laura.
How's that? My skills were put to good use, and I've grown professionally here and made a lot of good friends. Even though I have another job offer which would pay me more, I'm not very thrilled to leave How's That because I've worked here for 7 years and built my reputation. I've also made very good friends here, and so I don't want to leave all this behind. However, I feel extremely wronged by this decision. Ajay had very minimal experience and wasn't considered up to the mark, but still he was appointed for the role, even though I was considered till the end. I've contributed and led many projects here over the 7 years, and it's only right that I take on to Becky's responsibilities, um, I wasn't. So I wish to be promoted to Becky's role.
Great. Thank you very much for that. I'm just going to ask you a couple of additional questions, and then we'll come over to Simram HR to do the same thing. Okay. So if I could ask you, is there anything that you would like to add about how this has impacted on you?
Yes, I was actually planning my financial goals for this year, keeping in mind this promotion, but I wasn't given that. So everything fell apart and paid even premiums and everything. So I won't be able to meet my financial goals for it if I'm not promoted and my salary isn't increased or so and so.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything that you want to add about what you need?
If I cannot be possibly promoted, I would at least like a hike in my salary of about 25K.
Thank you. And this is a two-part question, I suppose. If things don't get resolved today, what do you see as the consequences of that?
Then I will be forced to leave How's That and join WhatsApp.
Okay. And if things do get resolved here, what do you see as the consequences there?
I would love to continue working at How's That.
Super. Anything else at this stage?
Nothing else. Thank you.
Super. Thank you very much, Laura. Thanks for getting us going, starting off there. I'm going to pass over to Simram there and let her read out what she had to say. Simram, it's your turn to do the same. And I'm not expecting you now to respond to what you've heard yet. I know you have prepared particular things to say, so if you'd like to read that out and go through that, and I'll ask you the same questions that I asked Laura.
Sure. So, excuse me. Lara is our valuable employee at How's That, and she has been working with us for 7 years, which is a long time. And Becky was a senior, and she, of course, held her in high regard, but as do the rest of us. And we would like to, since we both have mutual concerns, Lara wants to continue working at How's That, and we want to make sure that Lara stays at How's That. She continues working here. We would like to propose to Lara a similar job option, since we can't give her the same job as Becky's. She cannot exactly directly succeed Becky. We would like to ask her through a proposal if she would be comfortable with a similar job option to Becky's. She would not be answerable to anyone, and we do not want to lose our valuable employees. So we would like to explore this option with Lara, and we would also like to discuss an increase in salary with her.
Super. Thanks very much, Simran. Just ask you the same couple of questions there. Is there anything that you want to add about the impact of this?
Definitely. This has impacted our work environment. As Lara would be well aware, people are feeling uncomfortable and unsure about their own future prospects. However, we cannot give out any confidential information, but we would like Lara to know that this scenario would not be repeated, and we would also want to communicate the same to our workers. To balance out the work environment. This particular situation is out of our hands. So this has definitely impacted the work environment and people's energy as well. So yes.
Great, thank you. Is there anything you would like to add about what you need?
It would be great if Lara would be happy to discover this option of a similar job and not the same one, along with a negotiation in the increase in salary.
Super. And just a two-part question: what do you see as the consequences if things don't get resolved today?
I would say, firstly, we would be losing a valuable employee, and she would be going to a competitor firm, WhatsApp, and that would be a great loss to us. And other than that, like I mentioned, the work environment would get further disturbed. So it might lead to decreased energy and motivation amongst our workers, which could lead to even bigger losses for us.
Gotcha. And if things do get resolved in the mediation, what do you see as the consequences?
I would say that Lara would be joining us back, and she would be bringing with her her expertise, her skills, and we feel that our work environment will also be balanced. Her relationships will also be maintained, and I think it would be a win-win situation if it does work out. Yes.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to say at this stage?
Not at this point. Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thanks to both of you for that work that you did and just reading that out and taking us through that. I've taken a couple of notes, and I just would like to maybe summarize back to you what I've heard there, and just see what it sounds like to yourselves when you hear it coming back to you there. Okay, so Laura, you started off just by saying how much you loved working in the organization, that you're able to use your skills to good effect, and that you've grown professionally in the company, and a lot of your friends are here. And Simran, you said, look, to start off, to say that Laura is, and you feel that AJ didn't have a lot of experience as against your 7 years experience, and you know, in a sense, to make up for that, you were looking to be promoted in the company. And Simran, you were saying, in a sense, something similar, that you know you'd love Laura to stay in the company, and that you could keep her in the company, and in order to help her to do that, but a similar job where she wouldn't be answerable to anybody. And Laura, you were saying, look, one of the difficulties for you is when you're planning your financial goals, you had I guess, assumed that you would be getting the promotion, and you took on financial liabilities, which now makes it very difficult for you because you won't have enough money in your current salary to cover those. But Simran, again, you were saying, look, aside from the promotion, we would like to discuss about a salary increase as well as part of that. And I guess you both have a fairly similar kind of sense that if things don't get resolved and if Laura has to leave, then that would not be good. That would be quite a loss. And you know, I guess for you, Laura, in terms of leaving the company that you like, and for the company to lose a valuable employee, and in a sense, we're still go-to competitor. And you've also mentioned, Simran, about the environment and how this has you know, affected the environment, not in a good way, and people are a little bit nervous about you know, what has happened here. And you made the point that, look, this particular situation won't happen again, and it's fairly unique, and it's been out of your hands in HR in terms of dealing with it. But you know, you want to assure that this isn't going to happen again. And indeed, it would be great then if we can get things resolved in the mediation, because that means that Laura would stay in the company and the environment wouldn't be negatively impacted. And of course, Laura, you said you'd love to continue in the company if we could get that sorted out. So I suppose that's, what does that feel like, sort of hearing it back there? Does that sound about right?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so we're in this understanding the issues piece. Is there anything that want to add or explore further before solutions and details? Is there anything that you're not clear about, perhaps, that you'd like to ask a bit about?
Nothing as of now.
Okay.
Nothing
Simran?
at the moment.
Okay. Well, look, if that's the case, and it sounds quite clear to me there, just the way you both said it. So I think we're okay to leave this first stage, this understanding the issues stage, and move on to the option development. And there's a bit of a difference, I suppose, in that what we've been doing up to now, we've been looking back, we've been looking at what has happened, and I suppose some of the things have gone wrong. But now what you're going to do is look to the future and look forward and say, well, whatever has gone wrong, and I know there's the disappointment there about what has gone on, but to put that behind us and say, okay, what can we do going forward that would make this right, that would get us into a good position going forward for both HR, the company, and for you, Laura, as well. Okay, so if we move into that, I'm just going to throw it out to you and say, well, look, let's explore the ideas that you have. Let's see what you can do in terms of ideas to get this resolved. And the ideas already there are talking about promotion and talking about potential salary increase. So maybe who would like to start about that and to get us going on that discussion?
I think I am okay with her proposition, with the HR head Simran's proposition. Both the promotion of another role, which is similar to Becky's, and also the salary negotiation. I think I'm okay with that. I'd like to proceed.
Okay. And from your side, Simran, anything you want to add there? Are they the two things we want to talk about?
That's great to hear from Lara, and we would be happy to work on that. Yes.
Yeah, super. Okay, all right. And in terms of the promotion, like, do we have a good understanding of what that new job might be? Do we need to explore that a little bit further? Is there things that we need to talk about there?
Yes, so essentially the only difference, I would say fundamentally, would be in the title, the name, the title. And other than that, the functionality, her expertise, how much she is able to relay her control over things. It's pretty much the same. There is not going to be any fundamental difference there, only in the title itself.
And do we know what the title is?
The title would be, we can talk about.
Yeah, you don't have a title yet.
No,
But
not yet.
I'm saying that's
Not
the
yet.
fundamental difference, is just the title in terms of
Yeah.
responsibility, authority, and so on. That it's the same. It's the same kind of level that we're talking about.
Yes.
So, but you need to get the title agreed then eventually. Okay. Laura, do you want to ask anything about that promotion, or talk to that at all?
Yeah, if my role is similar, like if all the responsibilities and everything is similar, and the title is also on the same hierarchy, I guess, then I'm all right with it.
Okay. And I guess we're not going to have time in the mediation today to sort of write it all out in that, but how would you do that? You know, when we finish the mediation, you're both happy with that approach. How would you finalize the job description, the title, and so on? How would that be done?
Should I go ahead?
Yes, you can.
All right. So like I mentioned, the responsibility, the way, how much control Lara would be able to relay, her expertise, her skills, everything remains the same. It's only the words that we need to decide upon. We can decide upon that when we're writing up the settlement agreement later. But other than that, everything would be the same, Lara. And in terms of hierarchy, your responsibility and the control and authority you will have will remain the same.
Okay. Okay, so you're both happy with that in terms of that job role, and we just need to get a title for that, and I guess put the paperwork, finalize the paperwork on that, and that might be something you could maybe draft outside of the mediation and bring to Laura and talk about later. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
I'm happy
Yes.
with it.
Okay, super. Okay. And then the second thing then is the salary that will go with that. And again, maybe we can have a look at what that.
So would Lara like to start with her expectation? That's okay.
Yeah, I would like a hike of 30K around
30K.
in my salary.
And is that, just so I understand, and I don't know what the numbers are here now, but is that 30K a year or 30K a month?
30K per month.
A month, yeah. Okay. Grand. Okay, so that's over and above what your current salary is. That it will go from your current salary plus.
It's 1 lakh per month now.
Okay.
I would like it to be 1,30K per month from now on, like after the settlement.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, so that's clear. Simran, how about you? How does that sound?
That sounds a little bit more than we can afford right now. Would I be able to counter Lara's expectation?
What would you like to talk about?
I would like to ask her if she would be comfortable with 20K, a 20K increase in her salary instead of 30K.
Okay, so that would be, you'd be suggesting then the 1 lakh that she's currently on plus 20K on top of that. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it's a bit less maybe than the expectation that Laura, that you had there, but it's still more, I guess, than you're currently on, and I guess you need to look at your financial liabilities there and say, okay, you know, can I cover that? Is it possible to do that? Am I close enough with 20K?
For
It's not quite what we can go for the 30K, but Laura's come down now to 25K. And I'm just wondering, can you lift the company's offer up to that to meet that expectation?
So I would like for Lara to know that initially we had thought that an increase of 15,000 would be that's as much as we could go, and because we value you as an employee, your expertise and your skills. Once I heard your offer, I decided to add 5K more to that. So could you reconsider if that would be a possibility for you?
But if I'm promoted to Becky's role, the salary for hike for that would be 25K. So I feel it's only right that I also provide it with 25K increase in hike.
Okay, so the point there you're making, Laura, is that if the job that I'm going into is the same as the job that Becky had been doing in terms of authority, in terms of responsibility, and in terms of the place in the hierarchy, that if you had got that job, you would be getting a 25K increase, and that seems like a reasonable thing to expect. If as you say, other than the title, the jobs are pretty well the same.
Similar. Yeah.
Okay, what do you think, Simran?
That's a fair point from Lara, but again, we are in a situation where we cannot go beyond. If Lara would consider 23K, and we can gradually increase that to 25 if that's possible.
Yeah, I think that works.
Yeah. Okay, so what we're talking about there is that there would be an immediate increase to an addition of 23K, and then the hope would be that we could increase that to 25K over time. Now, can we say a bit more about that? I mean, it's a little bit vague there.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes. How about a period of 6 months? Over the next 6 months, we would be happy to increase from 23K to 25K.
Okay, so that's clear then. It's not just left up to chance. It's clear then that 6 months later that the 23K would move up to 25K at that stage. Laura, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm fine with it.
Okay, very good. Now, I'm just watching the time. Generally, we've been at this for about an hour, so I think we're probably pretty well there. But what we would do, the next stage, what we would do is I would draft up that agreement for you, and then I give it to you to have a look at. And once you're happy with the wording, we would sign it off, and that would be the final outcome. But I think you've essentially reached an agreement on that there. So I would say probably this is the right time to finish the role play and see what questions people have. Okay, is that okay, Aditya?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Brendan. Thank you so much, Simran and Lara, Bindu, for being support and volunteering for the role play. So we are open for questions. You can raise your hands and we can go ahead with the questions. Any questions, observations, anything you have in mind, you can mute and speak. Avni. Yeah, we'll go ahead, please.
I have a few questions. So my first question is that you followed the private session first and then went on to the joint session. Is this something specific to how you handle mediation, or is it specific to workplace conflicts?
Okay, well, it is specific to what I do, but most workplace mediators would do that. They would start with a preparatory session and then later move into the joint.
Okay.
It's not necessarily the way everyone does it. And I know there are other, scenarios where people go straight into the joint session. Do I think it's a good idea? I do. I think it's a very good idea to meet people in preparation first, and you just get an understanding of how they are, and you know, maybe how emotional they are about what has happened, and you can prepare yourself a little bit better then for the joint session. You know, when I started, I used to go straight into joint session, but I discovered very quickly it was better, you know, to have the preparatory meeting first and then go in.
Also, I saw a lot of times you tried not tutoring, but you tried directing them into a particular direction by like using a lot of leading questions. And like last time when we were discussing this topic, our whole idea was to not use leading questions and to let the parties come with it themselves. But I saw like you did it very subtly. So like, was that okay? Like, can we use leading questions? Should we use leading questions? Because I also saw some place like when you came into the joint session and you were summarizing it, some information that they told you in the private session, which they probably did not bring up in the joint session, was also conveyed to them, like something like, you know, like you understood that they both really want to be together and stuff like that. And so can we do that? Because I thought that's like confidential and we should only let the parties come up with what they want.
Yeah, so I'll take the second one first, Abby, if that's okay. So the joint session, firstly, I hope I didn't summarize something from the preparatory session that they didn't say in the joint, because that would have been wrong. You can't bring stuff in from the preparatory. You're absolutely right. But maybe just to show you what I was doing, because I have a particular way of doing notes and note taking, in particular to help with that summary. So I don't know if you can see that, and it's probably the wrong way around, but I have a little sort of box with each of them, and I'm taking down the points that they're saying there, just in shorthand, just a word or two. And then when I do the summary, I work off that. So I kind of one side to the other, back to forward. And if there are places that there's common ground, I can connect that up. Now, in this case, there was a lot of stuff. You won't always have a lot of common ground. You know, often you'll have a lot of difference that you'll have to go through. But I would use that document then just to keep me on track to what they've actually said in the joint session, rather than going back to the preparatory session. And then the first question, I mean, again, I think you're right that we don't really want to be asking leading questions. But what I have, I suppose, is a very strong process. So I try to process the conflict through the different stages. And within that, again, I have, let me just show you. Yeah. Again, and a kind of a note for each party. The page is split into 4. And I have, so there's 4 sections. The first section is the story. The second is the impact. The third is the needs. And then the fourth is the goal. And I call that SING, S-I-N-G. So story, impact, needs, and goal. And again, as they're speaking, I can put down pointers in each of those boxes. So that's why I would then come to say, well, how has this impacted on you? Because I want to see what has happened there that I can get into that box so that we know what's gone on there. And similarly with the need, very important. We want to find out what the needs are. So to ask that question directly sometimes is your simplest thing to do. What do you need? And you can sort of fill up that box then. So I know by the end of the meeting, if I have all my sections filled in like that, right, I've covered what I need to cover. And it might look a little bit structured. And similarly, the beginning of the joint session is a little bit structured because they read out their piece and so on. And again, I come in with those other questions that I ask. And again, I don't know if you can see it on this, but there's questions here, INCA. I don't know if you remembered when they spoke, I said there's a couple of questions I'm going to ask. Is there anything you want to add about how this has impacted on you? Is there anything you want to what you need, what do you see as the consequences if they don't get resolved, the consequences if they do get resolved, and then anything else. And that's I call it Inca, the Inca questions. Okay, so these are quite structured ways of getting the information out on the table. I suppose rather than having a completely free-flowing conversation with people. But you're right, Avery, absolutely. You're trying not to be too leading in the questions that you're asking, and what that might be. So, for example, I guess if Laura had said, "Well, I'm shocked I didn't get the job," and I would be saying to her, you know, well, do you think if you got a promotion and a salary increase, then you wouldn't, you know, you'd be quite happy with that? That'd be a more leading question, you know. Whereas the question, well, what do you need, is a more kind of open, neutral sort of question. I hope I've answered what you said there. That's
the note speaking is actually very helpful. Thank you so much.
Super. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions?
Oh yeah, you can also put your questions in the chat box if anybody wants to do that.
Yes. You can also share your observations if you want, not necessarily questions. If you have any observations, please feel free to share that as well.
And actually, I would love to hear what Bindu and Simram have to say. What did it feel like being in that situation?
Should I go ahead?
Okay, thank you.
I think it was a great experience for me. It was nice to be put in this situation where with someone who does this, you know, on a daily basis. I think I learned a lot. I had a couple of questions. The way we were told to prepare, no, we were not told to prepare our opening statements, but the way I prepared mine was, I went on a lot about confidentiality and how we should not speak over one another, respect one another, and all those things. Is this something that is not like stressed upon too much, like when we're talking about the opening statement? In a workplace environment, or I felt like that was not exactly prominent.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So I suppose the first thing is, yeah, it is important. And one of the things that we've got recently here in Ireland is a Mediation Act, and I think you might be getting one in India soon as well. So within the Act, we now have to do a thing called an agreement to mediate, and that's a document that the parties get in advance, and they have to agree to that in advance before the mediation starts. So that would cover all the things like confidentiality, the role of the mediator, how the mediation can stop, you know, what the mediator has to report back to the court if it's in a court situation, and you know, everything to what experience the mediator has, right? Conflict of interest and so on. So it's quite a legalistic document, it's kind of changed the workplace mediation a little bit, because we tend to be more informal about things, whereas say family mediation, commercial mediation will be a lot more formal, and there'll be more involvement by solicitors. Typically in workplace there wouldn't be a lot of it, there wouldn't be too many solicitors involved, so we can be a lot more informal. So the document I used before the Act was very simple, and it's, you know, respect confidentiality, it's voluntary, and I would take people through that in the preparatory session. The new Act, the document I have to have now is 5 pages long, you know, and it's frightening for some people in workplace. And there's some people I show it to and say, I can't sign that. I'm not going to sign that. So it's made us be more formal about that than we like to be in workplace. So yeah, we would certainly mention at the beginning, and would have all the time even before the act. But now it's a lot more formal about what we have to do there, and show them that in advance. Do you know, I didn't do that piece strong in the role play because I wanted us to spend time in the in the other part of it, and like you see how that was an hour. You see how quickly it goes, you know. And I just didn't want to take up too much time talking about it, because I know you know all that stuff. You know the voluntary, the confidentiality, you know all that stuff. So rather than going over it again, as you know, I didn't emphasize that. But you're absolutely right. We would talk about that, and we would talk about it in the preparatory sessions with each of them, and then we make sure that that document was signed. And if one of them doesn't sign the document, I don't do the mediation. That they have to sign, you know. Yeah. If they don't want to sign my legal document, by the way, I take out my old document and I say, well, will you sign that one? And they go, oh yeah, I'll sign that. That's okay. And then we just proceed, you know. But in the first case, we're supposed to have that agreement to mediate document. Did you have another one, Simran? Was there another question?
Yes, I was wondering, since you were taking notes, do you also, when you conduct mediations, let the parties know that you would be taking notes, and these would be confidential as well?
Yes, I do. And again, that is covered in the agreement to mediate, where it says that the notes are fully confidential. So it's our confidentiality is now assured by an act of Parliament, you know. So that's the strongest confidentiality you can get. Whereas before the act, while we said it was confidential, you know, it could be tested out, but now it's fully confidential. And yes, I do tell people, I say, I'm going to be taking notes. They're only brief notes. They don't go anywhere, and we keep them confidential. And to be honest, I don't take a huge amount of notes, and I try to kind of do it just on the side, and you know, use points, you know, bullet points, rather than taking pages and pages of notes, because you know, you don't want somebody asking a question and then they put their head down and they're writing, you know. You want them to engage with you, don't you? You know.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I had a great time.
That's great to have you there. Bindu, did you have any comment or observation or questions?
Yes, first of all, I loved this session. I came here expecting something. I knew this was a role play and everything, and I prepared a bit of a notes how to go about it and everything. But the way you asked questions, it was very interactive, and I learned how to deal with clients, like ask them questions to get the answers in the right way. And I love how when you asked me to write something to tell HR head, right? So I wrote it, but then it sounded like a complaint, and then you didn't exactly imply it, but I got to that conclusion myself. But you phrased your question like that, so that was a helpful insight. I loved how you did that, and everything else too. This was a complete new experience. I'm really honored to have this be part of this experience.
Great, thank you. And listen, Bindu and Simran, you were great. Thank you for doing the role so well. That was really nicely done, and I hope everyone enjoyed watching that and how that worked.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Do we have any other questions? I think we don't. If not, please can we turn on our videos on as a way of saying thank you to Brendan. So we click a picture with Brendan. It is our way of saying thank you to our expert trainers. and we can call this session an end. Can you please have some more videos on? I believe we have more than, yeah. Just a minute. Slide.
Are we having a break at this stage, Aditya?
No, we are good to go for today because many students have their classes scheduled for today. So the remaining sessions are rescheduled for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So this is all we have for today.
Oh, this is the end today, is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. I thought we were doing a role play with the group next. No.
No, we'll have that on Monday, but we'll do that. We don't need you to come again and make time for that. We are very thankful to you. You created time on a Saturday afternoon in India. What is the time there? I believe it's morning, right?
It is 10:15 here.
Yeah, so thank you so much for creating time. We hope to see you soon in our upcoming training sessions as well. I hope the trainees enjoyed and I enjoyed it a lot.
That's super. Aditya, thank you very much. Good to see you again. And I wish everyone well with the course and with life after the course. Thank you very much, everyone. Good to meet you all.
Thank you so much, Brendan. I'll see you
Take
soon.
care. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
I believe everybody started leaving. Guys, do you have your classes from, like, you have your classes right now, just after the session? Can you please raise your hands, students, trainees who have their classes so that I can get to or have their classes? Neha. So we have quite a few people. So we wanted to do a very quick breakout room activity, like for 15 minutes or so. But in case you have your classes, then we can do it tomorrow. More than 3-4 trainees have their classes. Okay, then we'll see you tomorrow sharp at 9:30 for our Sunday session. So we'll have a session full day tomorrow. Please keep that in mind. I like Archisa nodding her head. It gives me a sense of like that we are in a real session, not in a completely virtual mode. Thank you, Archisa. I really appreciate that. Okay, so we can call it a day. Thank you for joining in. See you all tomorrow. Bye, guys. Thank you, Simran. Thank you, Bindu.
I wanted to ask something.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Tomorrow's schedule will follow, right? The way
Yeah,
it is.
tomorrow. Yeah, it is. Agree with it. It begins at 9:30 and it ends at 4:30.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks for joining in.